So once again, my name is Jessie Wachter. I'm one of our global program advisors at Rustic Pathways. I've been with Rustic Pathways for about 8 years. I was formerly the director of our Tanzania operations, so I know Tanzania inside and out. It's definitely one of my true loves. And let me see if Connor might want to put yourself on mute. Is that your background noise?
It's not me, but
Sorry about that. Let's see. Yeah, there we go. Perfect. Sorry about that, guys. Um, And I've actually run programs in quite a few of the countries that we operate in. So as you think about your questions, feel free to send them my way. Connor as well has been with us for a long, long time, and I'll let him introduce himself a little bit more as well.
cool, awesome. Yeah, I've been around Rustic for 7 years. I used to be the director of both our India and China operation. And then I used to just run group trips for students in schools throughout the year. So all in all, I've run about 60 different programs with Rustic Pathways, and I've traveled in 12 of the countries that we travel to. So now I just help families when they have questions about their programs and preparing for their trips, just helping them with some of those sort of details, just knowing sort of the on-the-ground logistics. So I'm happy to help out with your questions tonight.
Yeah, and one more thing to note, we are recording this session. So if for some reason you're not able to join us the whole time, or if you missed something, or if you know somebody who is not able to join us tonight, let them know that we will have this recording up on the website by tomorrow, so you can access it at any time if you want to. Check back with us. We will also be running another one of these sessions at the end of June for families and students that will be traveling after June, July into August. Keep that in mind. And without further ado, we will get started. Thanks again for joining us, everyone. So get excited. You guys are, we have thousands of students joining us across 20 different countries this year. Super exciting. You have a lot going on. You're just out of school and you're preparing for your trip. So we're hoping to cover a lot of your concerns and questions throughout this presentation. Make sure that you do know what to expect. You're definitely not alone in having a lot of questions, and we again encourage you to ask all of your questions to your personal travel advisor, to your global programs advisor. Make sure you know where you're going, read through the itinerary, and just generally prepare yourself for your trip as best you can. We do have a blog at Rustic Pathways. You see the link there, rusticpathways.com/blog. We have a plethora of amazing entries there, both from students, past students, current students, from staff, from your leaders that are out there in the field working with your students. A lot of resources. We talk about our cell phone policy, which we'll touch on a little bit later. We talk about things that you may be worried about getting ready to go. We have an awesome entry that was just put up a couple weeks ago, 10 things you may be worried about, and everybody else is too. I encourage you to check that one out because it goes through a lot of things that I think a lot of you may have questions about. We'll also be posting some blog posts throughout the summer. Keep in mind, these are not going to be blog posts from your particular student's trip. We don't have a blog for each individual country or to each individual program. So it's not going to be live updates from your student's program, but it will be some fun information about some of our projects that we have ongoing, and definitely check it out as you go throughout the summer.
I think a couple really cool things to keep in mind too, as Jesse said about you not being alone. I know for a lot of people, this is their first time either traveling with Rustic Pathways or traveling overseas without their parent. As it says here, you are not alone. So we have a ton of students that come from all varieties, either first-time travelers, people that have traveled every summer with us, and this is their fourth or fifth year. We get about 75% of our students travel by themselves without knowing someone else or a friend on the program, and about 25% of people travel knowing a buddy there. What we always try and encourage with Rustic Pathways is we are more than happy to answer any and all questions for you. So don't think that, if it seems like a little question or you've asked too many, that you're bothering us. What we're here to do is to make you excited, comfortable, and just really engage and energize to go see the world, engage in the community service projects or the adventure project or the language immersion program or whatever it is that you want to do. We want to make sure that you're comfortable and know what to expect for your adventure sort of on the ground. Yeah, so I think just the more questions you can sort of ask us either here or before your trip, the happier we are to sort of answer those for you.
Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely a common concern that you're the only one that's going to be on your own heading off to your program. And as Connor mentioned, you are the majority if you're heading off on your own. We absolutely commend that. I think it's easier to make friends and you're a little bit more open to the experience when you're heading on your own. Congratulations. You're also not alone within Rustic Pathways. We have a lot of staff here to support you, both your leaders on the ground, our country management teams, your personal travel advisors, which are a huge resource for you, global programs advisors such as Connor and myself, your flight chaperones, your airport coordinators, everybody is here to make this as smooth of a process and as exciting a process as it can be. So again, thanks for joining us. One of the biggest questions we get all the time is packing. What do I pack? What do I pack it in? What do I pack? What don't I pack? How do I pack for a long trip, especially if you're going to be doing multiple sessions in a row? So we're definitely going to spend some time answering some of your questions towards packing.
I think the biggest thing with this too is if you're looking for, as we go into like what should I bring, what should I not bring in the next couple of slides, all of your packing lists for every program you're signed up for are already available for you. So if you go to the Rustic Pathways website and you find the individual program or programs that you're signed up for, when you click on that program, there'll be a big old picture. It'll have the title of your program, and there'll be like 4 or 5 little tabs that you can click through. It'll be itinerary, frequently asked questions, a map of everywhere the program travels, and then a packing list. So the packing lists have been up for 4 or 5 months already, but this is the time of year that people really start looking into those. So right away this evening, tomorrow, or whenever your trip is, definitely go to that section because every trip is going to have a customized packing list for that specific program. And if you are doing 2 programs back to back, keep in mind that you don't have to pack both, like double up all of your stuff that you're doing. Typically, you'll be able to do laundry or something like that between programs, but that's definitely a question that you can ask us if laundry is available if you're doing more than one program.
Yep, awesome. And I also want to make everyone aware that we have Rustic Gear. We have an entire site devoted to our recommended products. So you see that Patagonia black hole bag on your screen. It's a huge favorite amongst our Rustic Pathways staff. It's waterproof, it goes anywhere, it's super rugged, and it's a great size to take with you on your travels. It's not too big, it shouldn't get too heavy. Really great pack. And in addition to the pack, we have suggested clothing articles, we have water bottles, we have shoes, headlamps, all different types of products and things that we recommend that you take that has been curated from a number of different places, including our well-traveled Rustic Pathways staff. So definitely check that out. We have a ready-to-go set that you may have seen on your application. It has pretty much all of the basics, everything that you'll need for sure on most programs. Again, it's going to have that bag, some good travel shoes, the water bottle, everything that we recommend. So check that out. It's some really great stuff if you're looking for a place to start. And if you get that ready to go bag, it's got pretty much all your basics. You're set to go. Make your shopping easy. So what to bring? As Connor alluded to, there is a specific packing list for every program. So there's not really a general packing list for a particular country. It really does depend on the activities, the specific places you're going to go, the specific parts of a country region. And so you're going to want to look at that specific packing list for your program. That being said, there are some basics that pretty much every program requires or requests, and some of those you'll see on your screen. A big thing to note is appropriate clothing. This is also a really common question. What does appropriate mean? And yes, it does vary per country, but really it's pretty easy. If you're going to get some of those, you see those pants on the screen with the zip-off shorts, that's a great length because you can use them for the longer length, the pants, if it's going to be buggy or cooler in the evenings, and then you can zip them off and it still has a nice inseam so that it's appropriate in most cultures. If you look at your packing list, you'll see that there's oftentimes no leggings, no short shorts. In some countries, no shoulders exposed for both boys and girls. So that's just something to keep in mind, that what you may see as appropriate clothing within your own culture may not be appropriate when you're in, say, India or Asia or Morocco. various places that have a little bit more conservative culture. Just make sure that you bring along what is deemed appropriate clothing. And absolutely, again, if you have questions about is this appropriate or not, feel free to ask your PTA or one of the global programs advisors, because it will be something where if your leaders see that it's an inappropriate piece of clothing, we'll definitely advise you on that and ask you to change if necessary.
And a couple things I want to highlight just on this slide. It's just you said pack light, pack light, pack light. It I think we all have a tendency to overpack and over worry about what do I need for the program. For the most part, again, Jessie and I, between the two of us, have been running trips for 15 years. We typically do see students wear the same pants every day. They only cycle through a couple shirts. It usually is relatively easy to do like a quick wash in a sink or things like that. And on top of that, there's literally almost nothing that you can't buy in country. So if you forget like your toothpaste or you need an extra shirt or you forgot a pair of shorts or something like that, any of those like kind of basic staples you're all gonna be able to get there. You may not be able to get like your camera or your Patagonia bag or more fancy sandals, but anything like that, it's very easy to get in country if for some reason you didn't pack enough shirts or shorts or things like that. So I would always just highlight packing light for all of our programs. And the second thing I want to highlight is just this section G, just about the camera. We always love when students bring either a camera or if they use their phone as their camera device, and we'll go into phones in a little bit. But always what I want to highlight with people is students are still responsible for their own valuables. We will hold their passports while they're traveling, so they don't have to worry about what would happen if they would lose that. But it is the student's responsibility to sort of take care of like an expensive digital camera or DSLR, or if they want to bring a GoPro camera or things like that. Our staff won't hold on to that for them. And we really think it's a good thing for students to sort of hold their own responsibility for those items. We think that if they're old enough and responsible enough to travel to Costa Rica or India or Morocco or wherever it is, that this is about the age that they should be able to sort of be in charge of their own belongings. So that's one thing. Definitely bring it. Cameras are great to have on program, but if it's something where the student isn't going to trust that they're going to not lose or not take care of their own expensive camera, then maybe it's a good idea to leave that at home or leave that behind.
Yep, great. Another question that we get a lot about what to bring is how to bring money along with you. And we get the question, is it okay to bring traveler's checks? Is it okay to bring a credit card or a debit card or a prepaid visa? There's a lot of different options there to send with your students or to bring along with you as you're traveling with us. Cash is always king. Cash is going to be, I know it's a little bit more difficult to carry because you're bringing sometimes a large amount, but it will always be accepted at the foreign exchange booths. And in all of our programs, we will give the students a chance to exchange money when appropriate. So cash does work very well in all of our countries. US dollar is accepted in all of our countries, and we will make it available for students. If you do bring a debit card or a credit card, it's often a good idea to have that as a backup. But there are some countries, specifically Tanzania, I know that very well, that sometimes the ATMs just choose not to work. They're not accepting the ATM cards for some reason or another, and we never can tell when that's going to happen. Other programs, you just may not have a lot of access. If you're climbing Kilimanjaro, there's only going to be one time that you can exchange that money. You won't really be near an ATM at any given point. So make sure you look into your particular program, whether cards will be accepted. And again, cash is always king, and we recommend you bring that with you, and we will give you a safe place to keep that money while you're on programs in most cases.
Also with cash too, a lot of times people ask to exchange before I travel. If it's easy for you to do so, you certainly can, but for a lot of people, and in most instances, it's almost more difficult to exchange US dollars for, say, Thai baht or Mongolian currency or Chinese renminbi before you travel to China. Most places, it's very easy to exchange US dollars or more popular currencies in that country. The only exception would be is if you are traveling countries, say, like if you have Thai baht that you're trying to bring to Costa Rica, that would be something that's a little bit harder to exchange if it's not a major currency, like probably like US dollars, euros, Chinese or Japanese money. Those are a little bit easier to exchange every place that we travel.
Great. Let's see. Got any specific questions about packing, Connor?
No, I think we can move on to what not to bring.
Okay, that's our next section. So here are a couple great examples of what not to bring. Short shorts, any country, just don't bring them. There's going to be times, even in countries like Costa Rica, where sometimes on the beach it's going to be appropriate. You may then have some time in a village where it's not appropriate. So we just recommend that you have a little bit more modest shorts to bring with you. You can bring a sarong to wrap around your waist. There are, of course, some programs where you're going to be on an island or you're going to be on a sailboat, and those are going to be fine. But just keep in mind, check those packing lists, make sure that you do bring clothing that you can wear when you're in a more conservative community. Definitely want to bring, in most cases, a pair of flip-flops, a pair of closed-toed shoes, especially on our service programs. That's going to be really important when you're working with tools. We definitely want to have student safety at all times. So we're going to have you bring closed-toed shoes in addition to your sandals or flip-flops. Another common question is what kind of technology to bring with you. It's definitely pervasive in our lives these days. We recommend that you don't bring laptops and tablets. Some students will bring them along, especially for those travel days. You're going to bring your own videos to watch on the plane, but it is kind of a liability. It's something that you're going to have to keep safe. Sometimes we have safes for you to put them in, sometimes we don't. It's another program-specific question. And it's also just something that you're going to have to keep clean in some more dusty environments. So really the best decision is to leave those larger devices at home. And we'll touch base on phones a little bit in a little bit, but laptops and tablets, best left at home.
And I just really want to highlight, I know Jesse said it, but like shorts, because this is our single biggest question and issue in terms of like appropriate clothing in country, especially for girls. Girls sometimes have difficulty finding shorts that go to the knees, but they absolutely do need to be to your knees if that's what's requested on the packing list. A lot of girls wear short shorts or like sort of those half thigh shorts. And a lot of communities that we work with, like Buddhist monks, or we're working in elementary schools, or we're just working in communities where that clothing is just not acceptable. It's not one of those things that like, oh, we'd like you to have it to the knees, but if not, it's okay. We just won't be able to have you do the service project in those cases. So you'll either have to put a dress or a sarong over, or you'll have to borrow a pair of shorts from a friend, or you'll have to buy a pair of shorts or pants in country. So that's just one thing that students tend to miss every year. We do know that it can be difficult to get those sort of like basketball length shorts or those Bermuda shorts, but that is what you'll have to wear in country, as well as just essentially shirts with sleeves on them. So none of the like spaghetti strap style shirts or anything that really exposes a lot of your shoulders. So just something with sleeves on it.
Mm-hmm. And I did see a question about water purification. So we do have water bottles as an essential thing for every student to bring on every program. Every program we will have purified potable water for students to drink. It's going to come in different forms. It kind of depends on the program, but we will have as much water as you can possibly drink. And that's why we request students to bring your own water bottle. So you can always keep that full, at least a liter. A lot of students will bring 1.5 liter bottles or 1 liter bottles to have with you. So definitely have that with you. We will fill it to the brim as much as you possibly can drink. Don't worry about that. Again, pack light, especially students that are packing for multiple programs. We have the question about, yes, we know where the packing lists are, but some of these items are duplicates, and that's awesome. Disregard the duplicates. As Connor mentioned, if you're packing t-shirts and shorts for one packing list, those t-shirts and shorts are going to be good for the next. There's just going to be some specific items maybe that are necessary for your next program. But when it comes to clothing, I think that's the biggest packing question, is how much to bring, and less is definitely better. You can definitely make your clothes last longer when you're traveling abroad than you expect. Okay. And finally on there, the obvious thing is no drugs, alcohol, or cigarettes. This is definitely something that it's a black and white rule with Rustic Pathways. You're going to sign a contract before you come down. You'll also sign something in country just to make sure that everybody is on the page. Again, it's a black and white question. no questions asked. If you're caught with drugs, alcohol, or cigarettes, you will be sent home, and you will not get to enjoy your amazing program wherever you are. So definitely leave those things at home. Okay, so you packed up, you're ready to go, you got your bag on your shoulder. What to expect on travel days? So this is a big question, and it's coming up for some people. Our summer officially starts tomorrow. So we've got our first group of students going out June 7th, and this is what to expect on travel days. First of all, make sure that you wear your Rustic Pathways t-shirt. You should have gotten an awesome package in the mail put together by our team at our main office. And in there was a brand new, super soft, cushy Rustic Pathways t-shirt. This is the t-shirt that you need to wear all day on travel days, both to your destination country and back. And that's it. There's a key there to wear it on the return flight as well. A lot of students will wear it in country and get it super dirty, and they don't want to wear it home. But you do need to wear it on both travel days to make sure that the group stays together. It's easier for you to find your group and your staff, and just easier for logistically. So keep in mind you're going to wear that shirt. You can always order a second shirt. We do have those available. You can talk to your PTA about that or give us a call. But you will need to wear your Rustic Pathways t-shirt both days.
And also, just to clarify real quick, I think Jessie said you should have received it. You should have received it if you were traveling
Yes.
tomorrow.
Yes.
The t-shirts should come to your home about a week before your trip. So if you're traveling next week, Tuesday, it should get to your house either tomorrow or Wednesday. All the shirts are set to deliver about a week before your program. So if you haven't received it yet, not a big deal. But that sort of t-shirt package with some other goodies will come to you about a week before your trip.
Yep, good point. So once you join us at our hub airport, if you are coming in from the United States and you're flying to one of our hub airports around the country, you will have several staff there who are there to help you. One is your flight chaperone, and there may be multiple chaperones depending on your destination country and your departure date. There's also going to be airport coordinators, and those coordinators stay on the outside of security. They will also be escorting underage minors from their gates to their next gates, and we've got several people helping students get to where they need to be. The airport coordinators typically are going to be around your international check-in desk. So we can definitely help you find where that is in your particular airport. But they will be helping students, again, get to where they need to be and group and gather. The flight chaperones will take the students all the way through security, hang out with them at the gate, make sure that they answer all their questions, and actually escort them onto the flight all the way to their destination country, where they'll meet their in-country staff, their leaders who are already there in country.
For the most part, I want to highlight, I think there's a lot of sort of nervousness, I think, from both students and parents on airport days of what to expect and where to go. For the most part, you should be expecting, if you are either coming in, if you're driving to the airport, if you live near one of the port cities or where you're flying from, or if you're flying in domestically, the main point of where you're going to meet a Rustic Pathways staff member is not going to be at your individual gate when you're landing from your domestic flight, but it'll be at the international check-in for the airline that you're flying out of. So if you're flying, say, Fiji Airways to Fiji from Los Angeles, our staff will be waiting for you in their Rustic Pathways t-shirts. There'll be dozens of students at the check-in area as well at the Fiji Airways International check-in. We will send out day of travel emails for you, again, usually about a week before your travel date, which will have like a breakdown of what to expect on that travel date, some phone numbers to call in case there's an issue or in case your flight would get delayed, as well as like a map of the airport. So you may need to navigate from your own domestic flight to that international check-in, which may include picking up your bag if you're checking a bag on that domestic flight. But just keep that in mind that you will have to sort of navigate to that point. And again, we're here as a resource and to be able to sort of help you figure out how you're going to navigate to that international check-in. But there won't be a Rustic Pathways staff member waiting at your gate unless you talk to your personal travel advisor and you're specifically purchasing like an unaccompanied minor sort of fee that the airline charges you. And that it varies per airline, but that typically is for students who are 14 or 15 years old, and only if the airline requires it.
Yep, absolutely. And we have had some airlines update their policies on unaccompanied minors recently. So if you have any questions about that, please give us a call. We try to have the most up-to-date information for you, and are happy to go into that with you and how to work that logistically. D and E and F. This is when you are in the airport. Once you've checked in, you've got a bit of a wait. We do ask students to get in there a little bit early to make sure that you aren't too late for your international flight. So make sure you bring a deck of cards, bring something to get you to know your fellow students. As a director of our programs formally on the ground, I would see groups of students that arrived in country, and I was always shocked to find out who didn't know each other before just that international flight. It's a great place to meet students. You've got this long flight ahead of you in some cases. So be open to that. Make sure you find out who is going to be on your particular program. Oftentimes there's several different programs going to that country, and meet your fellow travelers. It's a great time to start making those friends. Using the buddy system in the airport is also great. Once you do make those friends, make sure that once you're checked in with your flight chaperones, that if you do need to run to the bathroom or pick up some snacks before you fly, that you're always with somebody else, so that we make sure that we keep track of you. You know how to get back to your gate and all that jazz. Okay. Our cell phone policy.
Yeah, I can tackle cell phone policy. So at Rustic Pathways, really what we are all about is students having really positive experiences on the ground, engaging with the communities and cultures that they are excited to, see, and why they signed up for the program. And an interesting thing with students these days is often the very, connected nature they are to their cell phone or to consistent access to internet or Wi-Fi. And on our programs, we really want students to sort of move away from sort of being connected to a 4-inch screen in front of your face, and really open your eyes to the communities and cultures, other Rustic Pathways students and staff members around you. So our general policy for cell phones on our programs is that you can certainly bring a cell phone with you. We like that students have it on airport days or while they're traveling domestically. We have a lot of students who also will use it for their camera while on program, and that is perfectly acceptable as well. But students aren't able to use their cell phones during any group activity. So that would be during, while you're whitewater rafting, or while you're doing community service, or while you're doing, any of the fun activities on your individual program. You're not able to use it at meal times or group discussions. Really, the only time that we allow students to use their cell phones if they have to communicate back home is early in the morning before breakfast, or sort of later in the evening when we've got maybe 45 minutes or an hour after the activities wrap up for the day, and before bedtime. Those would be the only times that you're really able to send a quick message back home. We really just don't want students Instagramming or being on Facebook or Snapchatting sort of throughout their whole trip, because then we just want them to engage in the program as much as possible. Even keeping in mind when that cell phone policy is, so when they're able to use or utilize their cell phone, also please keep in mind that not every country is going to have great cell phone service. So if you go to Verizon or AT&T and you activate your international plan and they say, of course it'll work in Fiji, just keep in mind that those international plans oftentimes do not work very great with local service while you're there. So certainly, if you're a student, just plan on probably not having access to your cell phone or internet for a majority of your program. And if you're a parent, definitely open up the discussion of how often you would like communication with your student, and understanding that we really want them engaging in the program as much as possible. And we love when they come back and sort of just talk for hours about their experience after getting home. But also, even if you want a message every day, they may be in an area or a region where that sort of connectivity isn't possible with local service, even if you have an international plan. Yeah, do you have anything else you want to add to that, Jessie?
Yeah, no, I think that was really well put. I definitely encourage parents to talk to their students about the use of the phone abroad. This is a huge investment that you're putting into your student's life, and we love to see those students really embrace it and be present when they're in country. So as much as Connor mentioned, oftentimes a cell phone is used for a camera, and that's totally fine. We love the students that really choose to kind of put their cell phone down for an entire week and disconnect and be really present in their country of choice.
And I think we can move into the next slide, which is a little bit more about communication back home. And I touched on it a little bit. Um, Communication back home, which is a really big thing. And I mentioned it previously, but I think you really should have a conversation between student and parent or guardians about how often you expect communication. It really surprises me sometimes, talking to students who maybe don't send a message to mom or dad or, a guardian, the entire 2 weeks that they're there. And, a dad will call me really worried because he thought his daughter was going to send a text every day. And it's just that they didn't have that communication before they left about how often they expected it. So one, I encourage you to have that conversation with your student, but then also to ask Rustic Pathways, what's a reasonable expectation of how often I'll have access to Wi-Fi, or when they could potentially send a message home, to make sure that your expectations of when you'll hear communication from them also lines up with when it's feasible, or logistically possible to receive that communication.
Yeah, and just to keep in mind, we always have a 24-hour, 7 days a week, anytime you need to call us for an emergency purpose, we have a line available for you. And that number, there's actually two numbers that will be sent out to you in your pre-trip communication. That is for emergencies. So if there's ever a time when you need to reach us or you need to reach our student, we have that available. It is for true emergencies. So if you just are curious, you haven't heard from your student, that's not a time for an emergency call. We want to keep that line open for true emergencies, but that is a resource available for our families. If you need to get, again, in touch with us or with your student, we can then patch you through, typically on the ground if need be. We also encourage you to give us a call anytime. We can, your PTA or our Global Programs Advisor team can reach out to our teams in country if you do have a question for us, if you'd just like an update on the trip. We always will contact families when the students land, so you'll receive what we call our safe arrival email. You'll know that the group has landed. Something to keep in mind about the safe arrival email is it's not going to happen the second that the plane lands. It's usually not even going to happen maybe an hour after the plane lands, because we want to give the students, the group, the chance to get through security, make sure all of the bags have been claimed, all of the students have their visas if necessary, and oftentimes that they've gotten on that shuttle and they're to their accommodations, or at least en route. So even though you know that the plane is going to land at 6:53 p.m. and at 6:54 you haven't heard from us, that's okay. It may take an hour or two to get that communication out to you because we want to make sure we have all the information, all the students, all the luggage before we get that out to you. But it is coming. And we also have global communication coordinators in every country. These are staff that are specifically going to be tasked with gathering stories and photos from the various programs, and they will be posting to individual Instagram accounts for each country. Something to keep in mind here, it is based on the program. We're not going to have a live feed from every program in true time, in real time, but we do strive to provide updates throughout the trip and photos from the country via these various Instagram accounts. So we can definitely get you that information if you don't already have that. Anything else, Connor?
Nope, I think that's good.
Okay. Okay, so we've touched a lot about this on already, but be ready to some of the following things. Make new friends. And this is not only with the other students on your trip, the other students on your plane. You're going to make new friends with your leaders and with the local communities. We have local staff that are going to be with your students. We have local community members and kids at the school. There's going to be so many new people that you're going to be in contact with. And we encourage you to just be super open and available to everybody that you meet. It's going to be amazing. And I promise you, these are going to be the greatest memories of your trip, are the people that you meet along the way. Try new foods. I know Connor has tried some crazy foods. Want to talk a little bit about the foods you'll encounter abroad?
Yeah, I just came back from Cambodia actually last week. So I had scorpion and tarantula and some grubs, which were actually the worst out of the three. You're not going to have all of those kind of things, on your programs. We do that as sort of just like a fun thing if students want to try in Southeast Asia. But we really, on all of our programs, we're going to have local food as part of the program while we're there. So if you're in the Dominican Republic, we want you to eat plantains and rice and beans and just staples of Dominican. If you're in India, we're going to have you try a bunch of different curries and a bunch of different, like paneer, which is just like this Indian cheese. If you're in China, we're going to have local Chinese food while we're there. We really want to incorporate all of those types of foods into the actual program itself because that's a huge part of travel. While you may have never eaten plantains before, or you may have never had paneer, we really want students to be able to sort of be adventurous and try new things. Ultimately, that's what we're hoping to gain out of your travel experience. We certainly know that some students are a little bit pickier eaters, and we are cognizant of that. But don't expect I occasionally get a question of like, my student only eats pizza. Can they only eat pizza throughout the program? And that we're not able to accommodate. We can have a little bit easier foods like, again, like a rice, the beans, like basic salads and stuff like that. But just be ready to like jump full in and try some of the local cuisine while you're there, because we have some of the best local cuisine to showcase to students in places that we travel.
Yeah, and you might be surprised. Um, Also, learn a new language. So, in some of these countries, in Australia, there's still going to be some terms that you may want to learn. But where you're traveling to, I highly encourage you to pick up some of the local language. And we have these awesome country books that we've sent out or will be sending out as part of your pre trip packages. Flip through that country book. We have some phrases and words that'll be super helpful. And you will absolutely shock and awe some of our local staff if before you even get to the country, when you land, you're able to greet them in their local language, or you're able to say thank you. That's a big one. Encourage you to surprise your local hosts and learn some of the language, and then that's always something that's fun to kind of bring back with you as well. Go with the flow is a big one. So we absolutely have itineraries that are available, day-to-day itineraries available on the website. Again, we encourage you to go through that to familiarize yourself with what you're going to be doing each day, and then don't throw that out the window, but just keep in mind that some things do change. We will stick to that itinerary, but sometimes there's a weather issue. So it may rain on a day that we're set to go out and do zip lining, and we may alter that itinerary so that we can go zip lining on a sunny day. There may be some other things that come up. We find out there's a local parade going on. We want to take you there instead of finishing one aspect of the project, and we will flip it so that we do the project the next day. So just keep in mind that sometimes there are changes to the itinerary. We do it always with good reason and with the experience for the students in mind. And that's just something to know as you're going into this.
And then I think the
And
last bit
yeah,
is just challenge yourself. So on a lot of these programs, again, you may be on a trip that has whitewater rafting or bungee jumping. Some of them have adventure activities, and some of them just have maybe a community service project, and you've never, worked with students before on an education project, or you've never built a house or a chicken coop. That's okay. All of these programs are sort of designed with the idea that you're not going to be an expert or a master mason, or you may not be a world championship whitewater rafter. We have all of these programs set up to sort of specifically cater to either new or beginning students or people that are specifically between 14 and 18 years old. So while some things can be scary, to be, kayaking or scuba diving or snorkeling, or, you're not sure, how to make cement to build the home that you're building. We really just want you to encourage you to go for it.
yeah,
Certainly be nervous, but try and do all of the activities and really push yourself and use this as an opportunity to try something new and grow as an individual in something that you may not have had the opportunity to do back at home.
yeah, totally. That again becomes some of the best parts of your story when you didn't think you could do something and then you did it, and you get to come back and brag about it. Okay, we're almost to the end of the
Um,
presentation here, so go ahead and take it, Connor.
Sure. So I'll do donations. This is something that we've changed a little bit in the over 30 years that Rustic Pathways has worked. And actually, I think this is one of the coolest things about Rustic Pathways is just our long-term commitment to sustainability and international development in the regions that we work in. So 20 years ago, if you would just come on a program with Rustic Pathways and you said, my dad's a dentist, I just want to bring 100 toothbrushes and 200 things of toothpaste, we would have gone, sure. Like, we'll figure out a spot for that. And we just would have taken it. Um, as we get more into the world of international development and become a leader in sort of student travel and sustainability, the more we talk to experts in the field, the more we sort of understand both the pros and cons of having donations in a community. So one thing that we have really grown and seen as an organization is that if they aren't community identified needs for donations, it really can have a negative impact in the community. One, it can put some like local businesses out of business who might have sold the toothbrush or the toothpaste to the community that now no longer has an economic way of striving or succeeding in the actual community. Two, it can sort of just become waste in the community. A lot of times you leave donations and they just don't need it, or there's no access to give it to people that do. Or three, it becomes to be sort of like a handout culture where a community, if they don't self-identify something that's truly needed, that they just expect that certain things will be covered. And then in the future, 10 years down the line, if we don't have someone donating toothbrushes, they may no longer have access to them. So we really want to encourage with students and parents and families as a whole is follow the very specific list that countries will send out about donations. Every country will send a welcome email to you a couple weeks before your trip. And one of the paragraphs in there will mention their donations. If it says, please do not bring donations, please do not bring them. We love that you want to bring something, but there's no outlet for it in the community to appropriately be used. And so we will not accept them from you on the ground. If it says like we need books for 6 to 8 year olds, or we need pencils, or we need shoes, or whatever it is, just follow that specific list of what those communities have self-identified as important, and that we do have an outlet for distributing. We can't accept donations of material goods after programs either. So if you see material on that donation list and you can't bring it on the program, while we would love to be able to donate it 6 months later, oftentimes shipping or the actual transportation of that good to that country far outweighs the cost of the actual good itself, and it would actually be much more effective to purchase those goods in country. So we can't accept any donation of material goods after programs. And the third point is with Rustic Pathways, we have the Rustic Pathways Foundation that oversees all of the Rustic Pathways specific community service projects and partnerships that we work with across the world. The Rustic Pathways Foundations really seeks just monetary donations for individual projects across the globe. And if you go to the Rustic Pathways Foundation website, and we'll have more materials for you in the future about how to stay involved and fundraise for these projects if you'd like. But it'll give you more information, like $8,000 builds a home in the Dominican Republic. If you raise $800 in Cambodia, that's the cost of one child to go to school for a year. Also really cool about the Rustic Pathways Foundation is 100% of the donations that we receive go directly into the projects. So the staff members that run the foundation are just employees through Rustic Pathways. So there's no overhead costs. We're not paying for staffing or fancy jets to these places. That money that you'll donate before, during, or after the program just goes directly into all the projects. So if you're looking to donate and have a really big lasting impact in the community, oftentimes it's through that financial donations or fundraising that you can do as a student or family to those projects.
Yep, awesome, Connor. And one more thing I did want to note is we do have some students that have raised money before they head to their destination countries. And as much as we do provide a specific list of material goods to donate that are as Connor mentioned, self-identified by the communities. You can always bring funds with you. And you can, if you identify a need while you're in country, if you're there and you see that, there's a soccer team you've been playing soccer with and you'd like to buy a soccer ball at the local sporting goods shop, that again sort of helps the local economy and the local shopkeepers, that is something you can absolutely do. You can work with your leaders, identify a need that you see, and purchase those supplies in country. So you can bring cash donations as well if you'd like to look for a need in the community while you're there in your country. Awesome. Okay. This is our final slide, guys. I appreciate you guys hanging out with us. We are going to have a question and answer session at the end of this. A couple of things I do want to make sure that I note. We have a couple surveys going out, and this is something brand new this year. So if you're a new student, it's going to be the same as alumni. You'll see this all for the first time. Super excited about this. We are doing some research into the impact that our programs have on our students. We are the only company in this industry that is doing this type of work. It is incredibly important to us as a company to know how we can improve our programs and improve the lives of the students that are traveling with us. So you're going to see a total of 3 surveys. One is your pre-trip survey. I didn't mention this at the beginning, but you're going to see this before you take off. This is super important to participate within, and we really do encourage your participation. Should be really quick. It's not a long survey. Give us some information, some feedback before you head out, so we have that starting point. We will then send you a post-trip survey. It will come sometime later this summer to get some feedback from your program. What did you learn? There's going to be a lot of different factors that we're looking into to try and gather this data and this information, so again, we can develop our programs to make them the best possible. And then finally, you'll receive a 3rd survey that will come out actually next spring. So we'll give you almost a year to sort of ruminate and process your experience. And then we'll follow up with a 3rd and final survey that will hopefully help track that experience and see how much of an impact that we're making out there in the world. Again, please do participate. This is our first go round, but we'd love to have some data to come back with and help, again, improve our programs for years to come. And then B that you see there on our screen, we have our hashtag So Rustic program contest. And we're running that again this year. We ran it last year. We encourage students to capture their experience while they're on the ground and then post those pictures post-trip. So you won't have, as we mentioned before, a lot of access to Wi-Fi. We don't encourage you to post during your trip. In fact, entries posted while you are on the trip will not be accepted. So it has to be posted once you get back and you have the chance to kind of get back into that Wi-Fi. Post those on Snapchat, on Instagram, on Twitter if you want to, and hashtag So Rustic. Every week we will be giving out prizes to students, so keep that in mind. There's awesome gear and prizes that we're going to be giving away every single week. And then at the end of the summer, there will be one winner chosen who will receive a free trip for next year. So a whole free trip. You're on board for 2017 to the grand prize winner for our hashtag So Rustic social media contest winner. Super exciting. And then that last one there, C, is our Rustic Squad. And these are students who are so inspired by their trip that they want to come back and they want to continue their experience. We will definitely send out more information about this, so don't fear that there's not a lot of information on your screen, but it's essentially students that want to carry forward their experience. They want to start a service club at their school, or they want to host new students and teach them about Rustic Pathways programs, or families that are interested in hearing more about the experience. So there's a whole lot of opportunities for our Rustic Squad, students that are interested in carrying forward that experience, and we will be sending out more information about that, so keep that in mind after the end of the summer. And without further ado, Connor, if you don't have anything to add, I think we can get to some questions. I know there are a bunch out there.
Cool, definitely, yeah. So y'all have been sending in some questions, and I know Katie, Maggie, Paul, and Dan have been in the background sort of answering some individual questions, but they've also been throwing some good generals to me. So I'm just going to throw some of those out there. If you have to log off at any point during this is the end of the formal presentation, but feel free to stick around for our Q&A section as long as we're running it. And feel free to keep on typing those questions in. And like I said, we'll get to as many as we can. Looking through some of the questions as well, one thing I want to highlight really quickly, if you're asking some questions like, Should I have a sleeping bag on my specific program, or can you accommodate a specific allergy on this trip, or who is my personal travel advisor, or things like that. Those are great individual questions, which I know the four people answering individual questions are trying to get to as many as possible. But if we don't get to those tonight, again, just give us a call tomorrow. We have an online chat feature on our website that you can send us a question tomorrow as well. Or you can just send an email to either your personal travel advisor or to Rustic at Rustic Pathways at Rustic at rusticpathways.com at any time to sort of get some of those individual questions answered. But we'll start with some of the generals that we've had. So the first one that I'm going to bring that we've just gotten a lot is how much money should I bring? It can vary a little bit from program to program. If you have a program that has a lot of like add-on or extra activities that you can purchase on the program. But the standard recommendation for all programs is about $100 to $150 per week of programming. That'll be more than plenty for anything that you need on a program. It's just our general recommendation for every trip. On our programs, all of the food, accommodation, all the activities that are listed sort of on the website that aren't listed as an add-on activity, all of your on-the-ground transportation, your staffing, all of that's included. So the only thing that you need to pay for on the ground would be personal expenses. So that would be if you're on a program with bungee jumping or skydiving and you want to go skydiving, or if you want to purchase souvenirs, or if you want some snacks throughout the trip. So, things like just a bag of chips or a Coke or something like that. Also, you'll need sort of like a little bit of spending money on airport days. So when you're flying to Thailand or Peru, sort of in that time before you get on the airplane, that's when some of that recommended dollar amount comes into play as well. But $100 to $150 is going to be per week is going to be more than plenty for most students, unless you're like a very big souvenir shopper or something like that, and then you may need a little bit more. But I have some students every year that spend $5 and they buy a bag of chips and a bracelet on their trip, and that's it. But that'll be the standard recommendation. Jessie, do you want to talk a little bit about health and safety / Zika? We have a lot of questions on that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I will reference, we did have a recording, actually online informational session with our Director of Safety and Risk Management not too long ago. That recording is also available on our website. It's rusticpathways.com/recordings. You can listen to that. It's about 40 minutes long or so, and he does reference Zika very specifically. So there's a nice little section on that if you want to hear more. It's something that our teams in country, specifically in the Caribbean and Latin America, are aware of and are keeping their ear to the ground. At this point, it is not affecting our itineraries. We do recommend that students bring good bug spray with them. It does not have to be 100% DEET, but have a good level of DEET in it. And then bring long pants, nice loose sort of linen pants, something that's comfortable to wear in warmer weather, and long sleeves as well for the evenings. Depending on the program, all of the accommodations are going to be a little bit different. We either provide mosquito nets where necessary, or we'll have screened in doors and windows. So each program, again, is going to be a little bit specific, and we encourage you to kind of look into that on a personal basis with your PTAs again, or give us a call, because it's a bit of more of a specific question for each program. But we do provide netting where necessary, and we encourage students to bring bug spray and wear appropriate clothing. And at this point, it is not affecting our itineraries.
Cool. And then I have a bunch of questions about T-shirts. So you will get a Rustic Pathways T-shirt in the mail. Again, the shirt comes about a week before your program. So if you are traveling, say, next week Tuesday, so on the 14th, you should expect it this Tuesday or Wednesday, so sometime between like the 7th and the 8th. If you live overseas, again, we will ship you a T-shirt overseas to whatever address that you provided to us. If for some reason the address that you provided to us is not where the student is going to be the week before the program, and you have no way of getting the T-shirt to them, so say they're at a sleepaway camp or they're staying at aunt and uncle's house and they're traveling directly from there, that's okay, but you just need to let us know where we should be shipping the T-shirt. So if they're leaving in 2 weeks and they're going to be at camp or something like that, just send us an email sometime this week so that we can send the shirt to where it needs to go. If for some reason you haven't received your shirt, and it's 2 or 3 days before your program, just send us an email. It's not a big deal. We do like to know about it just because then we'll know what students will not be wearing their shirt on airport day. It really is just for our staff members to more easily identify the students in the airport and on the airplane. It's certainly not a make or break it if it doesn't reach your house or gets lost in the mail or something like that. But just let us know so we can pass that along to our flight leaders. And the t-shirt then usually is just, it gets there like a day or two after you leave if for some reason it got delayed in the mail. But again, it should arrive about a week before your program.
Cool.
Jessie, can you answer the question about where would they find on if they have any add-on activities or if they have any, like, where do they find like the frequently asked questions for their program?
Yeah, great question. So we get a lot of questions about specific information, and we have tried to provide the answers to the most general questions, most common questions on the program page itself. So if you go onto the website, in the top there's a button that you can click that says Find Programs. Select your country. List of programs for that country come up. Select your individual program. And on that program page, as we mentioned before, there's going to be a nice big photo at the top. Scroll down a little bit. You'll see the available sessions on the right side. And then you'll also see several buttons. One is going to be your tabs, I should say. One's going to be for your day-to-day itinerary. You can read through what you're going to be doing every day of the trip. One's going to be the FAQs, and there are a lot on there. So definitely take a look at those. Going to answer some questions you probably didn't even know you had. And there's also a map, which is super helpful for parents to know where your students are traveling and students to know where you're traveling. So take a look at that. It should have all the cities that you'll be visiting on your particular program. Super valuable resource for you there. And I did see a couple questions come in just to mention that contest again. It's social media contest, so photos posted after you return from your trip on any of our social media outlets. So Facebook, Snapchat, Instagram. And you just need to use the hashtag #SoRustic, and we will be following along and looking for winners.
Cool. I have another question about sort of like the paperwork and forms and where to find all that information. I believe we've sent it out to all families now. We've sent it out on a rolling basis depending on your departure date. So you may have not received it if you are doing an August departure date, but I believe all June and July departure dates have been sent it. But we sent an email within the last probably like week or two, and it'd be an email just titled Announcing the My Rustic Portal. This is a great new sort of source and tool that we have for families. If you do a search in your inbox for My Rustic Portal, it'll give you a direct link that's just for your student, as well as like the login information. So there'll be like a 4-digit PIN code and then the student's birthday that you'll need to log in to that direct link. And that'll tell you everything that you still need to complete before your program. So there'll be 4 items that you need to sort of complete. The first one is your medical form. Has that been submitted with their allergies, pertinent medical history, and have both you and the student signed it? The second part to it is the participant enrollment agreement. And so that essentially is giving just permission for Rustic Pathways to be in charge of the student while they're traveling overseas. And again, it needs to be signed by both the student and the parent. With both of those 2 forms, if you log into your portal and you see that it's incomplete, but you say, I know I filled out that medical information, I'm 100% sure of it, usually in those situations, what it means is that you may have submitted the information and signed it, but maybe the student didn't sign the form. Or maybe the student signed it, but the parent did not. If that's the case, again, just contact us and we can send you another copy of the form to sign. But it'll be in each of the parties' individual email addresses. So it'll go, 1 email to the student, 1 email to parent 1, 1 email to parent or guardian 2. So it'll come as 2 or 3 separate emails to sign those forms. The third thing you need to complete before you get ready is sort of just payment. So you can see on your portal how much you've paid, how much you still have left to pay. It'll be a whole invoice of everything that you paid for trips and flights and things like that. And if you need to make a payment, you can make a payment directly from a credit card on your portal as well. And then the fourth thing you need to complete to be ready for travel is your travel logistics section. So that would be your passport information and a copy of your passport, as well as how you're getting to the port city. So if you are, say, going to Fiji and you're taking the group flight from Los Angeles to Fiji, but you live in Chicago, we want that domestic flight information from Chicago to Los Angeles that you booked, just so we have it in the office in case there's a delay or cancellation of your domestic flight. So there'll be a section right in there where you can type in the flight details and timings and things like that, and then just confirm that you've given us all of your flight information. So again, that should be in your email inbox. If you just do a search for My Rustic Portal, that's where you'll find all the information. But if for some reason you can't find it, again, just give our office a call or an email tomorrow or later this week, and we're happy to help you out. Jessie, can you talk to them just a little bit about what happens if they get sick in country, and should they be bringing like their own medications or stuff like that with them on program?
Sure. Yeah, great question. So we have a number of different things in place for you. You're absolutely able to bring your own little med kit if you want to bring some band-aids along. Your basic med kit is great to have along for your own use. Our staff on every single program are also going to have a much more comprehensive med kit. And depending on the program, the Kilimanjaro kit's going to be a little bit different than what we need on a rafting trip in Costa Rica. We will have the necessary supplies for most things that we're going to encounter. Keep in mind, we've run these programs for some up to almost 30 years, so we have a lot of experience in what to expect. That being said, we can always be surprised something happens and the student needs to be taken to the clinic or has hurt themselves on a particular activity. All of our full-time staff have what's called a Wilderness First Responder certification. So it's a fairly high-level medical certification. We're able to handle most smaller issues. If it's something that we need to escalate and take a student to a clinic, have a doctor look at them, you will be notified immediately. So maybe not immediately, but as soon as we can notify you when we get the student to the clinic, you will hear from us. If it's something where it is a minor injury, the student is sick for a couple hours, you may not hear from us right away. Our staff are going to be tending to the student and maintaining the program. But if the student does need to go to see a doctor, you'll hear from us immediately. We do have very thorough risk management policies in place, protocols for not only every program, but every day of every program, depending on where your student is going to be. And we know where the closest clinic is. Oftentimes we know the specific doctor who we're going to see. They're familiar with our staff. So it's very well prepared for your students in case there are emergencies. Another thing that you've noticed, every student is covered mandatorily by ISOS insurance. This is emergency evacuation, which covers evacuation for any emergency purpose. This is natural disaster, political distress, a sickness or medical need where they need to be evacuated. Every student is covered by this insurance if they are outside of the United States. And we can get that student out of that location if need be. So that's something to keep in mind. And you as parents have access to that database while they're gone. So you can use the ISOS database to find out more information about where your student is and what clinics are available and doctors, etc. It's all at your disposal.
Awesome. Thanks, Jessie. And I'm seeing there's still a lot of questions about concerns about like connecting flights and how do travel days work and what happens if my flight is delayed or I miss the international flight. Great thing. I mean, we can always go through a lot of the what ifs and Rustic Pathways, but we do have students arrive 4 hours before the international group flight, just because that's when we see a significant decrease in the number of students who miss that international flight due to a delay or cancellation of their domestic flight. If your flight would get canceled or delayed, usually the airlines are able to get you on an alternative flight that will be able to get you before that international flight. If something would happen where you would end up missing that international flight, what we just have you do is we have you call our office, keep us updated about how long the delay is going to be, or if it's canceled, when the next flight will be going out, all things like that, and we'll help you through those logistics of you know, would you have to stay overnight in Los Angeles? How are you getting to, Fiji the next day, or Costa Rica or India or wherever you're going? Things like that. It's in terms of receiving you on the ground, it's very easy to sort of receive you in country just because we have full-time operations everywhere we go, and we're usually able to accommodate it very easily. But that just becomes a sort of a what if game of how long are you going to be delayed or canceled. It doesn't happen very often throughout the summer, but usually, a couple times every summer, a student's flight gets delayed or canceled, and we work through it, and it works through every time. So don't be worried about it. Again, you'll get a day of travel email, usually about a week before your program, and then I'll walk you through step by step how you should navigate the airport, as well as who to contact in case something does occur, so that way we can work through those logistics as quick as possible. I think those are the main general questions that I see, Jessie, right now. Is there anything else that you want to cover really quickly for the group?
Let's see. Well, I do see that somebody has noted there are Facebook groups. This is a great thing to bring up. Thank you, Kate. We do have Facebook groups. There is a Facebook page for Rustic Pathways in general. There's a Facebook page for the Rustic Pathways Foundation. And then among those Facebook pages, we have students that start their own pages. We have students that start comment sections within our Facebook page. So Facebook is a great resource because there's a lot of students that meet each other beforehand, or that ask questions there about what to expect from both our staff and alumni. It's a nice open forum for that. So definitely check out Facebook as a resource. Let's see.
Cool. And the last thing I want to highlight too is just we do, certainly there's some questions that I know we're still not going to get to tonight, and we'll have to log off pretty soon here. Again, definitely feel free to reach out to us tomorrow, but a lot of some of the individual questions that I'm seeing are available still on the website right away. So if you go to your program page on our website, there's that itinerary tab, the maps tab, and then that frequently asked questions tab. If you just go into that frequently asked question tab, a lot of some of the individual questions that I'm seeing are answered right in there. Very easy to sort of go through, and then as more questions come up, you sort of know where to find those frequently asked questions as well. Same thing for like packing. We have a lot of questions about, should I bring a sleeping bag or should I not? It really varies per program. So if you would need to bring a sleeping bag, it'll say it on the packing list. If you don't need to bring it, it will not say it on the packing list. The packing list is very, very intuitive, and if you follow that to a T, you would have everything that you would need for the program. So if it's not mentioned there, you don't feel like you have to bring it, but if it is mentioned there, you should probably think about bringing it with you.
Yep, and I do want to make one more comment because I do see some questions coming in again about short shorts. And I guess the final answer on that, because it does vary per program, if you are going to bring shorts that you're questioning about whether they are too short or whether they're long enough, always just bring an alternative. So just expect that if you have shorts that are in question, you may not get to use those shorts throughout the entire trip, but you may when you get there. So you can refer to your leaders. They will definitely know the appropriate length. And if you bring a pair that's in doubt, just bring another pair that you know for sure is long enough and that you can wear in those cases that that you need something a little more conservative.
And you may be able to wear those shorter shorts to say to bed, or if you're going to sleep at night, or if you're just at the base house or hotel room, that's fine. But really what we want to highlight is you can't have that as your only short in most communities, just because while we're doing service projects or sort of touring around or visiting around some of the other communities, it's just not acceptable dress. So you can certainly pack a pair with you if you want to go to sleep with them at night, but not for the most part of the day while you're on program.
And we do have a question about flight chaperones, whether we send their information out beforehand, and we do not. You get to meet them at the airport. A lot of times it's actually full-time staff. If you are traveling tomorrow to Thailand from LAX, you'll see me at the airport. I'm going to be the flight chaperone to Thailand. So a lot of the times it will be full-time staff members that are taking your students to those countries, but you will get to meet them in the airport.
Awesome. Yeah, so I think, like I said, there's a couple of questions that I still see here now that I don't think we'll have time to answer this evening. But I just want to highlight, encourage some of those questions. If we didn't get them tonight, um, please just try and follow up with us tomorrow. So give us a call, send us an email. It's at rusticpathways.com. It's our main general email where we've got about 15 people answering that email account, so we get back to people pretty quickly. Or we have an online chat feature when we're open during the day that you can just send us a quick message if you're on the Rustic Pathways website. So my apologies if we didn't get to your individual question today, but we are more than happy to follow up with you tomorrow if you.
Give us a call. Great. Yeah, thank you so much. We still have several hundred people with us throughout this hour and into the next hour. So I really appreciate all of your attention and your patience and your questions. And look forward to hearing from some of you after this survey tomorrow and the next coming up days. Guys, have a great trip.
Thanks so much, y'all. Have a great summer.